English translation 374th contact. Tuesday 25th of January 2005, 17:11 hours.
Ah, you are already here. Salome, my son, friend Quetzal. Nice that you are here again. Be warmly welcomed.
1. My peace as a greeting. 2. Yes, Ptah has informed you that I want to do my work at the center this week. 3. I have now done that and finished a few minutes ago, so the new instructions can now come into effect.
Thanks for your time. Your changes make things easier again, which I am sure everyone is happy about. Ptah already explained everything necessary to me on his last visit, so I wrote it down and gave it to Bernadette, and she already prepared it for the handbook.
4. Overall, everything has changed very positively over the last few years, and this has resulted in some very pleasant facts in the storage block of the center, which make various things easier. Pshakshari. Fafu. What I have already done in this respect is not yet everything, because in the course of the next time I will be able to do a lot more to bring about further improvements and facilitations.
That is really gratifying. But tell me, Quetzal, since you now see yourself entrusted with your own big tasks in relation to your position as an Ishwish, I wonder if you can still deal with the earthly issues. By that I mean world affairs and politics, as well as events concerning nature, etc.
6. On a very large scale, this is no longer the case. But on a smaller scale, I still deal with everything, because certain tasks are still incumbent on me, and I cannot put them aside because I have taken over as Ptah's proxy.
I am stunned. Ptah did not tell me about it.
7. The status of proxy was only given to me yesterday. 8. I am sure he will let you know the next time he visits.
Okay, then I want to know your opinion on the American presidential aide, Condoleezza Rice. What is your opinion of this woman?
9. She is the most dangerous element at the side of the U.S. president, because she is as much for the use of might and application of Gayvault beyond all might and violence, with all available forceful means, physical, psychical, mental, and to use consciousness-based powers, abilities, and skills in order to carry out and practice tremendous deeds and actions. As George Walker Bush is. 10. Both are megalomaniacs and believe that they are acting on God's direct order and that they have to free the world from terrorism. 11. In their paranoia, they are no longer able to recognize that they are bringing the greatest disaster to the world in this delusion and are exercising the greatest terror in the world. Apart from this paranoia, however, both of them also suffer from severe psychopathic damage, which manifests itself in an abnormal emotional and psychological life with severe behavioral disorders. 13. Both are not at all aware of the enormous scope of their world of thoughts, feelings, and actions, because they live in a confused, illogical, and world divorced from reality. 14. A state that is nourished both by sectarian aberrations and by desires to exercise power and arrogance, but also by an insatiable megalomania.
These are clear words. But what about an attack on Iran? Have you made any further clarifications there? Ptah told me that at my request he would conduct a future review.
15. Yes, Ptah talked to me about it, but everything takes time. 16. I am sure he will let you know the results of his foresight as soon as he has finished.
Of course, I have no doubt, as I understand everything takes time. But while you are here, my friend, I would like to ask you a few questions that are purely private and not intended for other ears. If you have the time.
17. I have time until 1815 HRs, so we can talk until then. 18. I also have some private things that I would like to discuss with you if you allow me.
That is not a question. If you want, you can start with the one you want to discuss, because the visitor always has priority in my den.
19. Thank you, dear friend. 20. Then I will start with...
Now, I would like to ask your opinion about this. In the next few days, there will be more memorial services concerning the Nazi concentration camp Auschwitz-Birkenau in Poland. On 27th of January 1945, Soviet troops liberated the extermination camp, where the Nazis operated gas chambers for the gassing of Jews, the mentally retarded, criminals, Sinti and Roma, etc. In my opinion, as I have said before, I think that such commemorations are not only inhumane, but also idiotic, because they give the Nazi system and right-wing extremism ever new fuel, and from this new terror is born. With regard to Auschwitz-Birkenau, the Liberation Day of the 27th of January was introduced as an official day of remembrance in 1996. What do you think of my view that this is complete nonsense? As a result of which the old wounds will be torn open again and again, the horrors will not be forgotten, and new acts of terror and Nazi machinations will emerge from it. Today it is already so far that the NPD has been able to gain a foothold in the government in Germany, whereby this organization is the National Party of Germany, and the national must be understood as Nazi and National Socialism. It is incomprehensible to me that Germany is allowing the Nazi Party back into government, even though it is well known from the old Nazi regime what came out of it, and therefore can come out again. Germany is really incomprehensible, because everything must lead back to misery if the neo-Nazi system is not attacked and banished from the government. Apparently in Germany the words of the Germans have been forgotten, who after the war shouted and wrote "Never Again War." That this forgetting is given is also proven by the missions of the German Bundeswehr abroad, such as in Afghanistan, where German soldiers are working together with the Americans and occupying the country, even if this is only unofficial.
21. Unfortunately, your words correspond to what is actually given. 22. Through the NPD, the Nazi system in Germany has been able to regain an open foothold, and the German government itself is largely to blame for this, because it is incapable of governing the country. 23. Unemployment and the immense debts of around 1.5 trillion euros, as well as membership of the European Union, friendship with the USA and German henchman services for the war baron George W. Bush also play a decisive role. 24. These factors mean that everything in Germany is getting worse instead of better. 25. And what you mentioned regarding the upcoming commemoration ceremonies for Auschwitz-Birkenau, the situation is particularly bad, because the fact that the old horrible events of the Second World War are being remembered again and again creates new fuel for right-wing extremism, and especially for neo-Nazism. 26. Those responsible for such commemorations, as well as those responsible for anti-war films, commemorative films and books, etc., which in reality glorify war and the murder of people and the destruction of human achievements, are of such low intelligentum, overall cognition, intellect, rationality, knowledge and intellectual performance, the ability to assess and understand a situation consequentially, that is to say logically and psychologically illiterate, that it screams to heaven, as you would say. 27. All those responsible in this regard are the real authors of new atrocities resulting from neo-Nazism and right-wing extremism. 28. However, they are also responsible for the fact that left-wing extremism arises from it, which can be and become just as bad as right-wing extremism. 9. Shamefully, it has to be said that those responsible for and involved in such remembrance machinations of all kinds are still being praised and honored, which also applies to participants who were themselves once sufferers. 30. All these feel great and strong through the praise and honors and believe that they are something special and have a right, through their explanations and the release of memories, to constantly remind the descendants of the former authors of the horrible events of the old horrors, in order to awaken feelings of guilt in them and to demand financial compensation from them, for things and deeds that are not their fault, but those of their ancestors. 31. The Holocaust of the Second World War is over, and it must remain in the past. 32. But if this does not happen, and if commemoration days and commemorations are organized for it, if swollen speeches are made, films are made about it, and books are written, then a glorification of what must be condemned in principle and belongs in the unchangeable past is created. 33. The low intellectum, illogical paranoid speeches that the old events must not be forgotten and therefore must be remembered again, and again are so nonsensical that those responsible for and involved in such events would have to be removed from society and interned in an institution for the insane, as is still customary on the earth, when the mentally ill are shamefully imprisoned. 34. It is not these who would have to be interned in mental homes and the like, but those responsible ones and participants in such commemorative ceremonies, and of course, this includes all those in government who reach out their hands for such nonsense and pave the way far into the future with dishonest and slimy words of demon glory and blaming the innocent descendants. 35. Many right-wing extremists and neo-Nazis, this is my observation, indulge in right-wing extremism and Nazism only because they feel guilty through the morbidly stupid machinations of those responsible, who, through their feeble-mindedness in commemorating past inhumanities, stir up feelings of guilt in the descendants of the former evildoers or in those who are completely unburdened in this respect. This inevitably leads to hatred, out of which terrorist acts then arise. Because those who are forced into guilt, also in complete unreasonableness, do not know how to defend themselves in any other way, while other elements are misled by such commemorative actions and fall into a pool of hatred and blindness, while again others in their aberration are incited to the same acts. D7. What, however, should be denounced by all those responsible, is not being done, namely, the criminal and felonious events of the present and the future, such as those of the USA, which has militarily invaded Afghanistan and Iraq, killing tens of thousands of humans through acts of war and torture. 38. And nothing is being done to stop the USA's addiction to world domination and to remove the power-loving leaders from their offices for all time. 39. On the contrary, the actions of those responsible are still being praised, with the actual warmongers, as in the USA President George W. Bush and his direct advisor Condoleezza Rice, being cheered up by the low intellectum part of the people and raised to the level of holiness, so to speak. B. Nothing is being done to bring about real peace among all the peoples of the world, because the paranoid and psychopathic rulers and that part of the people who fanatically cheer them are stupid folks, insomuch that they are of low intelligentum and so deteriorated to the idiocy that they believe that peace can be brought about by war and by secret service and war terror. 41. Thus, no work is being done for a really valuable progress of humankind, but only for the preservation of the power of those criminal rulers who drive the world and humankind into misery and need. 42. and also only worked for, is the creation of new and ever more deadly weapons. To wage wars of nation against nation, and to subjugate humankind, especially under the banner of the USA. 43.
But as long as the earthly humanity does not finally awaken and does not remove those criminal elements from the governments, nation by nation, that create terror and oppression, nothing will change.
44. It is shameful to say that it is always only a few individual criminals in the fallible governments who exercise their violence and coercion over the people in such an autocratic, completely irresponsible and power-obsessed manner, while the great mass of the people do nothing about it and consequently change nothing for the better. 45. As long as the people do not rise up in unity against the criminal powers that spread war, terror, destruction, hardship, and misery and ruin among their own people, or spread them throughout the world, nothing will change for the better.
Tell me about it, my friend.
46. Then I will go now, for the time has passed. 47. Goodbye, dear friend. 48. Thank you for your advice.
Do not mention it. Farewell, and let me see you again soon. Take care, Ketzel, my friend.